guys, it's been a minute since I made a video, but what better reason to come back than iPhone 10. So let's just jump right into it. Now iPhone 10 seems to be the phone that everybody's talking about this year. There's some great phones that have come out. There's been the Pixel 2, there's been the Galaxy Note 8 and S8, there's been a new OnePlus phone, there's been a new HTC phone, and there's been a common trend I've noticed. You know that little frame you see around the screen, the bezel? Everyone's going bezel-less. And iPhone 10 is no exception to that. So let's dive into it. First you'll notice the display. Now the display is Apple's first Super Retina display. They bumped up the resolution to much greater PPI than they had before. It's also an OLED, so the contrast ratio is much higher. You see a lot more colors in there. It's a lot closer to the surface of the screen. It almost looks like a sticker layover right on top of the screen there, instead of something behind the glass. Now, as you could tell, there's no home button, so you have to navigate the phone a little bit differently. Switching apps is a little bit more fluid, and going home is a little bit more fluid as well. It does take a little bit to get used to, but you definitely do. A lot of people have been wondering if reachability is still on there. Well, it is. It's just buried in the settings. But you know how you double tap the home button on another iPhone and the screen can move down so you can reach the top of an otherwise larger phone? You can still do that with the 10. Just works a little bit different. Just a little swipe and you'll find it go down to you. Now Face ID works well. It works better than most people expected it to, but then again, it's not perfect. So in bright light situations or not all the time with sunglasses will it work, but for the most part, it's pretty great. There's some cool features built into Face ID, like looking at your notifications. If anyone else looks at your phone with text messages or notifications on them, it will not show you the text of those notifications until you glance at it. Then you'll be able to see everything on there. The camera on the iPhone 10 is great. The main camera is the same as the 8 Plus. So it has a dual camera on the back just like the 8 Plus, but unlike the 8 Plus, both cameras are optically stabilized. And also the telephoto, that zoom lens you see on there, has a little bit of a lower f-stop. So it lets in a little bit extra light, better for portrait mode and low light situations. Speaking of portrait mode, the iPhone 10 finally brings it to the front-facing camera. Now, it's not perfect. You'll see it blurring out some ears and some hair sometimes. It utilizes the Face ID sensors in order to pull this trick off. Since there's no dual cameras in the front, it has to find another way to differentiate the foreground from the background. And unlike the Google Pixel, it doesn't have the dual pixels in the camera. But for the most part, I'd say it does a pretty decent job. Now, the better camera experience, or especially for portrait mode, is on the rear. Not every shot will be perfect. You'll see some blurred out spaces that shouldn't be from time to time, but if your lighting is great, then you can expect a pretty decent shot. They've developed this over time pretty well. So other things that have changed since the home button left are screenshots and turning off the phone. That would be the volume up button and the side button. Click them at the same time and you can finally do a one-handed screenshot without having to hold down the home button with your other hand. You turn off the phone the same way. For turning it off, you just hold both buttons. And you can do either volume button for that. The speakers were also improved on the 10. So they've got the same stereo speaker upgrade that the 8 got. An improvement on the 7s, about 25% louder and a little bit more robust as well.
And never let me go, please. You say that I need this, but now I don't know. Well, I want you.
It's certainly noticeable if you listen to music or watch any videos. And if that notch at the top annoys you while watching videos, you can uncrop it pretty easily. You just pinch on the screen and it goes back out. Also, I discovered that if you're trying to multitask and switch your windows, but you don't want to swipe upwards and hold and wait that 2 seconds, cough cough Casey Neistat, you can just swipe up and to the side and it will immediately go into the multitasking window. Like I said, the gestures on the new 10 are very fluid. Now when I was fooling around with the rear-facing camera, we didn't have the best lighting in the world, but even so, the larger sensor on the 10 as opposed to the 7 actually did a pretty good job of eliminating most noise from the shot and getting a good indoor video experience. Another nice feature is that the iPhone 8 and 10 both record at 4K at 60 frames a second, which is not very common. Though I do wish Apple would allow you to change the camera setting functions from within the camera app. Annoyingly, you have to go into the settings to do that right now, and then leave and go back into the camera app. Get on to that, Apple. But overall, the phone is a very good piece of hardware. It's weighty, it's got that stainless steel band and the glass front and back to enable wireless charging. It's a very premium feeling device. The hardware is some of the best hardware of any phone out there right now when it comes to the quality and the build of the phone. There are some things that could get better, of course, but I would say it's a really good contender for best smartphone of 2017. As of now, it's certainly the fastest. Improvements I'd like to see would possibly be maybe a longer battery life and better and quicker Face ID, but as a whole, it's a really usable phone that gives a pretty natural experience. I'd say it's a worth $200 upgrade from the 8 Plus. If you don't need all those features, then maybe just stick with the regular 8 that's $300 cheaper. Or even look at an S8. But anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. I'll see you soon. Peace.